はい、今日はリンカンプさんにおいでいただきまして、これからのフォルクスワーゲンの車が未来に向けてどういうふうに変化して進化して変わっていくのか、その辺のお話をいろいろと聞いてみたいと思います。もちろん私たちは自動車の未来、一体どんなものか、それぞれいろんな方が夢を見ていると思いますけども、最近のトピックスの中では電気化、いわゆる EV 化あるいはハイブリッド化、そういった自動車が都市のコミューター化の中に数多く出てきますが、フォルクスワーゲンがそういった分野においてどういうような新しいイノベーション技術を具現化するか、その辺もいろいろと聞いてみたいと思います。まず最初にリンカンプさんにお伺いしたいのは、アメリカのオバマ大統領がいわゆるグリーンニューディールということで非常に電気自動車を大きくシフトするというような政策を出したり、フォルクスワーゲンの方もハイブリッドのみならず電気自動車の開発に力を入れているという報道がありますけれども、実際この EV 化の流れというのはどのぐらいの速度でこれからやっていくのか、その辺のところからまずお話を伺いたいと思います。
I think that the first task we have at the moment is to reduce massively the fuel consumption of conventional cars. This can be done by several means. Volkswagen chose the way to do it by internal combustion engines like a turbocharged diesel engine, turbocharged petrol engines with gearboxes, high sophisticated gearboxes. And with those means we can already reduce the fuel consumption a lot. I think in the end it really counts what the fuel consumption overall is. You can certainly also choose a way like hybrids. This is definitely valid in certain areas of the world where you have a lot of stop and go traffic, where you have a strong petrol market. There it might make sense, but not in all regions and not in all cars. Especially if you go to smaller cars, a hybrid is also getting very heavy in a car. So at a certain point it doesn't make sense for small cars to make hybrids. You were asking about the electric vehicle. I think all automotive manufacturers are at the moment in a situation that we would like to bring such a car, but the technology is still not ready. A transition phase can be the plug-in hybrid, where you have part of the electrical mobility, especially in inner city traffic, on an electric basis. And if you go on a highway, you definitely have to use an internal combustion engine. The full electric car will definitely take until the next century to be industrialized. The batteries are not on a level where we can do that already, and the whole car architecture also has to be completely new. So we are working on that, but it will take time.
フォルクスワーゲンのエコーリーフレットの中に、小さくドクター・シュタイガーさんの写真のところにですね、サステナブルインデックスという文字を日本で発行されているリーフレットに見出したことがあったんですけども、あまりまだそれに関しては詳しく述べられてませんが、いわゆるサステナブルインデックスという考え方は日本では今 CO2 を下げる、低炭素社会と言われてますが、そちらの方向に政府を挙げて産業界もシフトしてますけども、その先にあるのはおそらく化石燃料からいかに離脱できるかという、いわゆる持続可能なエネルギーの社会ということだと思います。そこに対してフォルクスワーゲンがサステナブルインデックスという新しい物差しを考え始めたのではないかなという気がするんですけども、その辺に関していかがでしょうか。
For me, sustainable mobility always means that you have to make a well-to-wheel consideration. So it doesn't make sense to consider just one part of the car's life. You have to consider the whole car life, and you have also to consider the whole well-to-wheel fuel path. That means, for example, if you, for example, claim an electric car has less CO2 because the electricity has no CO2, you always have to consider how you generate electricity. Or it's the same with hydrogen. You can always say hydrogen is clean, but if you produce hydrogen out of a coal power plant, you emit in the end more CO2 than if you burn normal petrol or diesel. So we always try to have the holistic approach to get everything together and not just to consider one single phase.
資源を土から資源を使って商品製品を作って、最後は廃棄して土に戻す、いわゆる土から土へみたいな、そこをライフサイクルと言いますけども、そういった総合的な環境負荷というところにサステナブルインデックスという意味があるというお話でしたけども、実際化石燃料クルードオイルですけども、安定して今の比較的安い価格で使えるのはどのくらい先まで使えるのか、最近シェルの方ではいわゆる安価な化石燃料が使えるのがあと10年あるかないかというようなことをシェルが発表したとか、そういうようなお話もありますけれども、フォルクスワーゲンとしてこの化石燃料への依存とその化石燃料からいかに離脱して一次エネルギーを多様化させたパワープラントにシフトしていくのか、その辺のタイミングはいつ頃なのか、なかなか答えにくいと思いますけれども、急がなければいけないのか、まだまだゆっくりしていられるのか、その辺はどのようにお考えでしょうか。
As a researcher, for me it's so urgent that I say it's today, because I know that we have to prepare the technologies today that they can go into serial production maybe in the next 10 years. About the crude oil, nobody exactly knows and nobody tells us what the situation is, which makes me a little bit worried because sometimes I have the feeling nobody knows it 100%, and even the International Energy Agency is reporting differently from year to year. So to be on the safe side, we have to have some fallback solution. For sure, one part is to reduce the oil consumption massively, and I know that there are a lot of potentials still there. This is one part is definitely on the powertrain. The other part is also on the car. You see that we are also going into smaller car segments. We've presented the Up as a very small car from VW. We have shown a 1-liter car. And those concepts can also contribute to a massive reduction of oil consumption. To be honest, the long-distance mobility, at the moment nobody can imagine to do that without crude oil. Or oil-based combustion engines. Therefore, we have to find other sources like renewable biofuels to substitute that. The short-distance mobility is definitely possible to do that by electricity. In Germany, roughly half of all the mobility is below 40 kilometers per day. So there is a chance to have cars which at least cover a small portion of mobility by electricity. But still, as I said, the batteries have to make a really high step to improve that. And that was also the reason why VW made a joint venture, or not a joint venture, but made a cooperation together with Toshiba to develop also batteries.
はい、ちょうど今アップのお話が出たので、少しプロダクト寄りのお話をこれから伺っていきたいと思いますけども、もちろん大きい車で長距離、ディーゼルあるいは次世代の、いわゆる IC ですね、イターナルコンバッションエンジンがまだまだ必要だというお話ですけども、小さい車の方は意外とEV にしやすい。そうなった時に今度安全性との問題がいろいろ出てくると思います。日本では軽自動車という非常に小さいカテゴリーの車ありましたけども、最近はその軽自動車が衝突安全性が少し信頼を受けるようになったおかげでユーザーも安心して買うようになりましたけども、小さい車 アップのような小さい車を作っていくときに、この安全性セーフティーをどういうふうに、大きい車とコンパティブルにしていくのかというようなお話を少し伺っていきたいと思いますけれども。
If you go to a smaller car, just from the physical point of view, it's the weaker car, especially if you run against a bigger car. We have two ways to improve safety in order to have a level which is higher than even today. One is that we have to make sure that the small cars have a very rigid structure, so if they crash into a bigger car, they can use the deformation zone of the bigger car. And this is one of the best ways also to have a good compatibility. This is about the passive means, where we have done a lot. We have a lot of airbags in the car, we have seatbelt tensioners, we have a very good structure of the car, we have a good crash zone. To improve the safety further, we definitely need to have driver assistance systems. We are now trying to introduce that also into smaller cars. They come from the high-level luxury cars, and we will now introduce it also in the Golf class with an ACC system, laser-based, also with some functions for safety. And I hope that in the future we can also come down to a polo class or even smaller classes with those systems. That will take time, we have to get the costs down, but in the end I hope that we will also see those systems in the market.
Active safety.
Active safety systems. Second point, what we are doing very consequently is introducing ESP into small cars. We have in Germany from VW far over 90% of ESP take rate now.
How much percent?
90. Because we have a situation, especially in Europe, that a lot of severe accidents can be avoided by the introduction of ESP. We can go a step further, that we do something in the pre-crash phase. This is roughly half a second before a crash happens. We can still take some actions. And the end will be that we have a longer preview time, so we extend the reach of the sensor by a car-to-X or car-to-car communication, so that we know in advance that problems might occur. And with this full package, we have definitely safer cars than we had in the past.
車の小さい車がより硬くなり、大きい車に対してエネルギーを吸収させていく、つまり硬さを変えたコンパティビリティという考え方と、自律型のアクティブセーフティー、そしてプリクラッシュ、そういった技術で安全性を上げていくという話ですけども、最後にカーツーカーのいわゆるテレマティックス、カートゥーカーコミュニケーションの話が出ましたが、まさに今日本がこの ITS を使って、社会そのもの、車社会そのものをですね変えていこうというような動きがあるんですけども、日本はカートゥーカーよりもむしろロシア間の方ですでに実用化がかなり進んでいるところがありまして、ETC が一番いい例なんですね。もうすでに ETC 車載機は車に2600万台ついてます。それとカーナビビックス、ビーコンとやるやり取りにおいてもカーナビビックスが2200万台、インフラの方で見ると光ビーコンが一般国道5万箇所、高速道路の 5.8GHz の、ロシア間通信ができる、レーダーの、装置が高速道路に3000箇所ですから、そういったロシア間を使うとかなり日本はいけるという話がありますけれども、このフォルクスワーゲンが考えている、将来のITS のイメージなんですけれども、ヨーロッパはなかなかインフラロシアでやるのが難しいというお話を聞いてましたけれども、カーツーカーでやるのか、ロシアでやるのか、その辺の EU の話もあると思いますし、ドイツの中の話もあると思うし、フォルクスワーゲンの考え方もあると思いますけれども、少しその将来の ITS のお話を、テレマティックスのお話を伺うことができればと思いますけれども、いかがでしょうか。
I I think in Japan you have an excellent situation that the infrastructure is extremely high developed, and it's, as far as I know, the only country in the world which has such a good infrastructure on the roadside. In Europe, especially in Germany, we are a little bit happy that we don't have to pay for the streets, so we don't have that big big infrastructure. So you have to distinguish between the Japanese market, where a lot of infrastructure is there, a lot of technology is already in the cars available for communication, and the European market, where we have to find an introduction scenario. It will be the same in the US and the same in China or India, that you have to get this step for introduction first. So in Europe, we are running at the moment in Germany a field test to examine what it means to have a car-to-X or car-to-car communication, what the technology is which would work, and what the infrastructure has to contribute.